It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. If you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive.
Are you planning to still make an escape for it?
He knows that I'll come and find him. I always do.
Vinod!
Yeah?
So, do you believe in love at first sight?
No.
Excuse me, what would you call our love story then? My situation before our relationship was that I was perfectly happy in my life. I was living in the capital of Finland, Helsinki, in a really good area in the center. I had a really cute flat. I had my career in fitness industry. I had a lot of friends, especially at work. I was doing CrossFit. I was dating a lot. And I was just like having a lot of fun and enjoying my life. But then on the New Year's Day in 2016, with the most terrible hangover, I started feeling like, at this point I was 27 and a half years old and maybe I'm over my party girl days. I felt suddenly much more grown up and like I was ready for the biggest dream that I had ever had, which was one day getting a family. And I had the strongest feeling that 2016 was going to be the year of love for me. So my biggest goal was that I would find the perfect man for myself. And I even went as far with this as kind of manifesting the ideal man into my life and just like very much in detail picturing what I wanted from my ideal partner, and I made a list that went 4 pages long. I did actually always think that I would find my ideal partner in my residential city Helsinki, or at least in Finland, but I was still a long-time member of an online site called OkCupid. One of my favorite things about OkCupid was that it was completely different from Tinder or many other more superficial online sites, because in OkCupid you not only have your often very detailed profile page, but then you also get to reply to these like many questions that OkCupid asks the users, and then you get to go through the other people's answers to those and seeing how you match according to those. And I thought that this was always just like so much fun and really entertaining in the weekends when I would maybe be feeling a little bit lonely. Then I remember this one evening in the early March of 2016 when I was just at home, a little bit bored. So I was browsing OkCupid and I was just like swiping, and then suddenly it hit my eyes. Wait, oh my god, 99% match. Can this even be possible? I saw that the guy was from India and I was just absolutely shocked, because in general on OkCupid the Indian men do enforce the stereotype about Indian men online, and before that I had just pretty much been receiving messages from Indian men that are just like, "Hi beautiful, this is my WhatsApp number, text me, please marry me, I love you, beautiful." If back then someone would have told me that one day I would end up in India for love, I seriously would have laughed at their face. But anyways, this 99% match just like caught my eye and curiosity, and because the profile picture wasn't too bad either, I was curious, so I just really had to open the profile so I could read what this guy was all about. I thought that I would just be reading a few really simple sentences, but I came upon the best profile description of oneself that I had ever seen, and just reading those words, it felt like someone was just speaking to my soul and talking about things that I had always dreamed about and what I felt in my heart. And I was just immediately like, oh my god, this must be one of the greatest guys ever. So I liked the guy's profile and I started strategizing in my mind straight away, like, oh my god, this guy seems too good to be true. So what can I send him as a message to catch his attention? I stayed quiet for a very long time pondering about this. But then, by some fortune, the next day I saw on my profile that he had also visited mine, and then suddenly there was a notification that he also liked me and we were officially a match. And that made me even more nervous. So, okay, he accepted my profile text, so he at least somewhat liked me. I can screw this up. Like, this gave me so much more pressure about what can I tell him first. Like, if I open my mouth, I'll be able to make him not like me anymore. But then on March 6th, I got the first message from Lord Byron, and I was just over the moon, and it was the two most beautiful words that I have ever heard, which was "Hello, stranger." And yeah, he just simply told me in a very beautiful way that he loved my profile and he had the feeling that he had to get to know me, which I obviously shared at that point. And then we started a discussion and it went into really deep topics straight away. I think the first thing that we talked about was dating and how relationships are in Finland and India. And already after the first evening of messaging each other, the next day that I went to work, I told my good friend that, oh my god, I think that I have found the guy that I want to marry in the future. I was just such a mitten little girl at that point. Every free hour of work that I spent on OkCupid having a conversation with this guy, and the topics varied from all these different kinds of deep issues such as our dreams and aspirations, values and interests in life, and our childhoods, how are our countries, what are the things that we like, and sharing poetry with each other. It's really funny because both of us actually, we were talking about how it felt so surreal that there could be a person like this alive, that felt more like, have my best friends put you up to this? Are you acting now according to some script that the friends have given you and you're just pulling a prank on me? It's too good to be true. After I think 5 days of these really lengthy messages that seriously took me 2 hours to write every evening, Vinod suggested that I should travel to India and we should make plans to travel in the Himalayas and travel together, because he couldn't imagine anyone better to have an adventure with. How could I say no to that? So we agreed that we would seriously start planning for a trip to India for me, and just a couple of days later, the most romantic thing in my life happened. I know that this must seem like the craziest thing to pretty much all the people in the world, but after a week of these lengthy conversations with Vinod, he technically proposed to me. And at this point, you really have to understand the fact that even though it was just a week, we had been having these lengthy conversations about in-depth topics. We, at this point, knew each other a lot better than many people who go on to these casual dates multiple times, because we had spent all the free time we had talking to each other. And it was clear to me that he wasn't one of these stereotypical Indian men that he would just like keep proposing to every girl, especially if they're from Europe, but he was a very serious and rational man and doesn't do these kinds of romantic things hastily. These kinds of romantic acts are very out of character for him. So when I asked him, oh my god, are you being serious now? Are you kidding me? And he told me that yes, he is being very serious and he had carefully deliberated on this, and he wanted to make sure that I also knew that he was being serious and this was the direction where he wanted our relationship to head in the future. I knew that what he meant was that this was just like a promise of like a future together, and that first we would obviously get to know each other even better and have more of these like lovely conversations, and I would travel to India. We would spend actual time together. We would see how our lives fit together under one roof and kind of test our relationship also first, but with the commitment that it is worth to me to travel to India, and with the commitment that he wants to work for this kind of future. It was the easiest yes that I have ever said in my life. So for the next few months, we kept having these lengthy conversations. We evolved to using Skype and messaging apps on our own phones, and of course planning my trip to India, which then happened in May 2016. I traveled to India for my first date with Vinod, and obviously the first date was going to be longer than just a couple of hours in a restaurant. So the first time we met each other face to face was at the Delhi airport. From Delhi we continued to the mountains, to Manali first, and then to a road trip in Spiti. And I can remember all these moments on the road in Spiti where I would just be staring at the mountains and holding on to Vinod, and I would be like, oh my god, am I dead? Am I dreaming? Is this actually my life? This is more like, wow, these things only happen in the movies. I had never, ever, ever in my life been happier than that. So after those 2 weeks of traveling together, Vinod had to return to his work, and I continued for a little solo trip to Rishikesh, just to see that I could also handle being in India on my own, which was like a part of our deal, that I should also spend time in this country alone, so that Vinod would feel comfortable of like letting me eventually move to India for our relationship. And then the most tragic thing happened. The first morning that I was back to Finland, I woke up to a text message from Vinod, which was telling me that he unfortunately can't be in a relationship at the moment and he needs to break up with me. Wait, what? I had just come back to Finland with a heart so full of love, and you want to break up with me? Are you crazy? Like, no, like there's seriously no way that this is happening, because like we are soulmates. I think at this point we should get the bad guy of this story here to sit with me. Vinod!
No.
Vinod! Okay, he's not such a bad guy, but he was such a bad guy. Do you want to explain a little about the situation?
You fell sick in India, and I wasn't ready to come to Finland for this, and it wouldn't have worked out. I was pretty sure that it would not work out. Like you moving to India,
Cynical.
like, it was so different for you, and yeah, you had never traveled outside Europe before, so this was the first time you were stepping out of Europe. Of course, you had traveled within Europe. It would have been very difficult for you.
And to go a little bit more into detail, on top of this, just before our relationship, Vinod had got out of a very, very serious relationship. So he was still healing those wounds. And Vinod also had a lot of concerns due to being a government worker and me being a foreigner, because this relationship between us would have required an immense amount of bureaucratic work and all this like paper war. And being Indian people, you must like seriously understand how that would have been like a really big concern for him. Will it be worth all that like battle with bureaucracy? I can understand that he had all these anxieties, but then for the next like couple of months we still kept talking on the phone and talking about the situation, how would we be able to make it work. And because I am very, very stubborn, so I was doing my best to convince him that of course just love isn't enough, but the kind of love that we have leads to the fact that we have what it takes to work enough to make the relationship work too. But then in mid-August, after 2 months of these negotiations between us, he just put an end to it, pulled the band-aid off and just nope, he can't do it, and please don't contact me anymore, and yeah, we just need to end this now. Just kill it. Cut its throat.
Not so dramatic.
It felt so dramatic to me. I cried for hours that day because I was seriously, no, this is not happening. So a week later, a week after he had broken up with me and cut all contact, I bought flights back to India.
Yep, stalker.
I can understand how it might seem that way. I call myself determined and willing to fight for love. Because I was just so convinced in my heart that he was not doing this because he didn't want to be with me. He was just being too anxious to put in the work and being lazy, because as you might have seen, Vinod is not the most emotionally expressive guy. So he maybe sometimes has a hard time to put in all the emotional labor, which is my forte. That's where I come in, because I encourage him to do that. So after 6 weeks of having no contact with the guy, I flew back to India. I didn't technically know where he was. He had relocated from Mumbai to a city called Visakhapatnam, which I had seriously no idea of who as a foreigner has ever heard of Visakhapatnam. It even took me 3 weeks to learn how to pronounce the name. But I was willing to do the trip all the way to this weird little city and to find him some way. So at the end of September 2016, I flew to Visakhapatnam. I arrived there and I was yep, so now what? I found a hotel room in the local YMCA and spending my days getting accustomed to the city and just killing my time while waiting for him to just magically show up from somewhere, because I had no idea where he would be living, where he would be working. How can I find him? And at that point I started thinking oh my god, this is crazy. Am I seriously just going to trust in faith? No, I have to take my destiny in my own hands. So before coming to India, I had actually sent him an email that I would be coming and that I think that he's just being a coward. But I hadn't received a reply. But at this point I was I just have to text him to let him know that seriously, I am here now. I'm still not going to force you into anything, but if you want to meet up, I'm here and I will be here. And to this, he finally replied.
Yeah.
So how did you feel when you got that message from me?
Felt like you're stupid. I mean, you came on a one-way ticket to India and you said, yeah, I'm going to be here. And
Yeah, I was prepared to spend my whole visa duration, which was 6 months at that point, to
Yeah.
spend 6 months in Visakhapatnam. I had no return ticket. And I was just like, yep, determined to stay there until he understands that I'm the love of his life too.
it was stupid. I would still say that it's not the most logical or the rational thing to do.
Definitely not something that he
When
would do.
You're looking for me in a city of like what?
3 million people.
Yeah, 3 million. That's 30 lakh people. Like, how did you even imagine that you're just going to bump into me on the streets? Or
Destiny!
if you watch too many movies.
After 2 weeks since my arrival to Visakhapatnam, on a fine Sunday, we finally met up in the evening. I was uncomfortable, to say the least, so we were just like, yep, hi, how are you doing? Yeah, nice to see you after a long time. And then we went to this nearby cafe to have a good conversation. I just remember still feeling like in every word of his, even he didn't really believe that we didn't belong together. He apologized to the pain that he had caused me and some other things. And then we had a really nice walk there when it was actually thundering and so many lightnings were just lighting up the sky. And then he kissed me. And obviously at this point, I again was assured that, yep, I'm going to make this happen. Even though when he was dropping me off back to the YMCA, he was still telling me that, yep, even though he will still be willing to spend time with me, because I had told you that I am going to stay here for many months. And yeah, even though he's willing to spend that time with me and we had kissed, it's still not going to lead to anywhere. Like, there's no future for us.
Yeah.
But after this, I did the rational thing any girl would do. I left the YMCA and I got a rental flat for myself because I was committed to staying in India until I also made him assured that we have a future. So when I told you that I got a rental apartment, how did you feel about that?
By then I think, getting used to the idea that you don't do things very rationally, so...
Yeah, and
Yes.
you'll just bide your time until I have to leave India, and then you'll be like, yes, I'll bear with you the time that you're here and enjoy that time because I can't get rid of you, but yeah, once you leave, bye-bye.
Well, yeah, something like that. But I was happy that, you did stay. Of course, in hindsight, I'm happy that you took the decision. This relationship, it still did not, logically, it did not make sense to me. How is it going to go ahead? And I wasn't very optimistic about this. So.
But that was my job to take those doubts away. So for the next couple of months, we were spending all the weekends together, hanging out at my flat, and even traveling to Rameshwaram. And yeah, we had a lot of nice times together, but you were still there is absolutely no future to this. Until the very fine Christmas day when you accidentally called yourself my boyfriend. And I was like, finally! And yeah, I think that Christmas was the turning point for our relationship because then we spent my last month in Visakhapatnam discussing how we could make it work. We agreed that about 5 months later I would come back to India, back to Visakhapatnam, and we would actually get a flat together. And from there on, start seeing how our relationship could work and have all these crazy events, like me meeting your parents and we lived together for 2 years in Visakhapatnam. Then he finally did see it worthy doing all the paperwork with his employer, and we finally got married October 2019, and obviously now we are expecting for a little Vinod or Johanna.
Yep.
So now do you maybe want to, like, in hindsight, say that who is the hero of this story?
Well, you're the hero of the story, of course.
Yes, we lived happily ever after.
Yes, thank you, and yeah,
This is our this is our PDA.
thank you.
You're very welcome. I really want to thank you for all the interest that you have had for our love story. It's a very special story to me, so I've been a bit nervous about sharing it with you guys because I just wanted to be sure that I can show the proper, like, give it the proper justice. And thank you so much for watching this, and I love all you guys for the support that you give to our relationship and life. So thank you guys, and I will see you again very soon. Mwah.